Hello, welcome back to Without Within 2. So we're gonna episode 2 the crap out of this. Oh no! Wait, whoa, no! What did I do? It's loud. A pair of trams drove past me from the either side. The left one was a box-shaped model that looked quite ancient. The tram to my right, by comparison, looked like it came from the future. Those green and yellow carriages appeared spotless, as if they had arrived fresh off the factory. Printed along the middle carriage was the words, "Your next generation tram." Why tram? It's train, not tram. I had seen photos of these trams online, but seeing them in real life brought me a whole new level of excitement. Hopefully I would have a chance to ride one before this trip ended. Southern Cross. The bus driver had said something about us arriving in Southern Cross Station. I spun around and indeed there was a station sign displayed under the blue sky. The station's roof took on a wavy pattern, reminding me of the ocean waves, or those graphs I never quite figured out back in math class. If I walked to the other side of the road, I should be able to get a better view of the station. I skipped up to a crossing and pressed a button on the lamppost. As I waited for the light to turn green, I noticed a dozen blue bicycles lined up by the curb before me. The word Melbourne was printed in white along each of their frames. There was a machine of some sort sitting next to each bike too. I guess these were rentable bicycles. Yet another foreign concept that fascinated me. The green walking man appeared, and I checked both sides while I crossed the road, just in case trams followed different rules or something. I had no idea how those trams and cars managed to navigate around one another on the same road. Then again, this might be why I never got myself a driver's license. After reaching the footpath opposite, I pulled out my phone to snap a photo of Southern Cross Station. Please look after me, Melbourne, for I had just become an official tourist. Whoa, beautiful map. Time to take out the hand-drawn map I had left in my backpack. See, I came prepared. I had sketched the city's layout just in case my phone died, the internet died, or knowing my luck, both. This map might be a bit crumpled from the flight, but for a 2-day trip, it should do the trick. I felt like a pirate hunting for treasure. Not only did I put together a map, I had also planned out a schedule to ensure no time was wasted. I traced a finger along the route to my first destination, Hosier Lane. For an artist like me, there was no better place to kick off this trip. Hosier Lane was an alley that showcased artwork sprayed by local street artists, legally approved ones, just to clarify. Melbourne really seemed to respect the sweat and tears of artists. Maybe if I sold my calligraphies on the streets here, I would have better luck than I did back home. To celebrate Excelia's event tomorrow, I heard Hosier Lane now featured works from local calligraphers. Hopefully stopping by for a visit might bring me some inspiration. I arrived at the alley and well, calligraphies had indeed been painted across the brick wall before me. However, they all looked smudged like makeup ruined by tears. I guess the works had to be wiped for the next set of artists, but they could have at least waited until after Excelia's show ended tomorrow. My works never received any attention, and I felt pleased that the calligraphers were suffered the same treatment. I loathed this part of me, the part I yearned to lure everyone into my abyss. Excelia, on the other hand, has soared too high for me to bring her down. With her works shown in museums across the globe, she had no need to fight for space in an alley like this. In fact, one clap of her hands and she could probably buy this entire lane. Just pocket change, as she would probably say. Successful people like it to set up tents on a mountain peak, leaving no room for new climbers to fit. If I ever reached stardom, I swore I would act differently. Excelia shouted me a meal, and now here I was complaining behind her back. Maybe I should change my name from Vinty to Envy. With nothing to really look at here, I might as well leave. A row of trees sat in between the two traffic lanes of Queen Street. Sunlight poked through the leaves, casting blocks of shadows across the pavement below. A flock of baby birds chirped as they landed from the trees and skipped along the soil. Birds never had to bear the pain that came with having a dream. It must be nice in some ways. Alright, enough of this ammo talk. I checked the paper map for my next destination, the Eureka Sky Deck. Calligraphers from around the world had gathered for tomorrow's show. I read on a forum that they wanted to hold a meetup at the tower this afternoon, so count me in, folks. My tummy growled, reminding me to eat first. I had planned to treat myself to a nice lunch on my first day, but I blew that money on my bus ticket from earlier. With knitted brows, I bought a single dumpling from a dim sum stand and called that my lunch. I bet it would fill me up about as well as a dog poo sausage did. As I took my dumpling out of its paper bag, one of those old-fashioned trams were heading toward the stop ahead. These CBD trams in particular were free, so I might as well get on. Unsure if eating was allowed inside, I jammed the dumpling into my mouth before jogging up to the tram stop. Rather than parking directly next to the stand, the tram stopped in the middle of the street. I thought the engine may have broken down or something. Passengers were already starting to get off though. Did I have to cross the road to hop on? With nobody else in the queue, I had no reference at all. The train driver waved at me to get on. After glancing left and right for cars, I sprinted up to the tram and jumped in. This must be the standard way of boarding here. It made sense considering trams had no way of detaching from its track to park by the curb. Silly me. I took a seat by the window, and the tram resumed its course. A male voice came through the speakers. The next stop is Spencer Street. Step off here for Southern Cross Station. I ran a finger across the dust-speckled window still to my right. The carriage appeared as if it was made of wood, and it gave off the scent of an ancient library too. I approve of this retro feel. For safety, please take a seat and hold on. Because trains sometimes have to stop suddenly in traffic, the tour guide continued to speak. The recording reminded me to try and enjoy this trip. No sense letting this calligraphy thing gnaw me at all day when Melbourne had so many different sights to offer. I pulled the paper map out of my backpack to give it another read. The CBD tram circled around the city, and the Eureka Skydeck sat just outside its route. I should get off at nearby stop and leg it from there. After such a big lunch, I could use a walk anyway. You can purchase a Mickey from one of retail outlets. The announcer spoke on, but it was time for me to get off. The tram stopped, once again leaving space between its doors and the footpath. I checked both sides for cars before hopping off. The locals must be used to this, but I felt a bit like that frog in, Frogger. Following my map's directions, I stepped onto the bridge located ahead. This wide bridge allowed both cars and trams to drive across it. 2 lanes of trams, in fact. A lot of bicycles were swerving past me left and right. When I glanced down, I found a bicycle symbol painted underfoot, meaning I must have stumbled onto the bike lane by mistake. Feeling like a foolish tourist, I darted out of the bicycle area and back onto the footpath. A cyclist beamed at me as he rode past, even though he had every right to feel annoyed. Under the bridge sat a river that glittered under the afternoon sun. The Yarra River, according to my research. I pulled out my phone to snap a photo before strolling across the bridge. After a 10-minute walk, I arrived outside the Eureka Skydeck. The vertically aligned letters on the logo resembled a tower, which might be exactly what they were going for. Skydeck, okay. A group of backpackers made their way through the automatic doors. They could well be the calligraphers from that forum I always lurked in. For some reason, seeing these forum users in real life made my brows stain with sweat, or maybe the walk from earlier had just tired me out. Come on, Vinti, these people shared your passion for calligraphy, so they should be seen as your allies. I wanted to tell myself that, but if so, why did I shiver as though I was treading into a minefield? Oh, to heck with it. Turning around now would just be silly. I squeezed my bag straps and stepped through the automatic doors. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. To my left stood a wooden wall with the tower's branding painted across it. A long slanted light hung overhead to illuminate this logo. On the far side, those backpackers from before were queuing up for the elevator. There were more people here than I had expected. I hoped only a few of them were actual calligraphers. The man and lady behind the counter grinned as I approached them. With suits that well ironed, they could easily host their own TV shows. "Good afternoon," the man said. "Would you like to visit the tower? We have day and night tickets available, as well as a combo for a discounted price." The woman chimed in. They must be well rehearsed with this introduction speech of theirs. Admiring the night scene from the tower top would be nice, but I had best head to the hotel early for a good night's sleep, so I went with the day ticket. After I made the purchase, the male staff pointed at the dimly lit hallway. "You'll see the elevator on the far end." The lady nodded. "Thank you, please enjoy the view." These two backed each other up with more grace than most married couples I knew. After saying thanks, I made my way down the hall and into the elevator. The sky deck is the southern hemisphere highest viewing platform. A male's voice echoed as the numbers on display soared faster than I could keep up. We might blast off into space at this rate. At 285 meters, that's the same as 20 of Melbourne's trams stacked up on top of each other. The pre-recorded voice continued to list the tower's features. The upward force pressed my shoes against the floor, and that ear-popping sensation from the plane landing made a return, although it was far less severe this time around. "Did you feel a sway at the end? Did you feel a sway at all?" "That's normal. In fact, the Eureka Tower can sway 30 centimeters in each direction." This had to be the most powerful elevator I have ever stepped foot in. The one in my apartment creaked after floor 3 and broke twice a month, so no contest here. "We are nearly there. Enjoy the view and listen for the sounds of Melbourne above you. Welcome to Eureka Skydeck." The number display stopped at 88. A staff greeted me on the other side as soon as the doors opened. I said hi back as I hopped off the elevator. The tower walls consisted of glass panels so clean that they might as well be invisible. I guess the staff maintaining these panels daily to ensure customers got a clear view of the cityscape. There were binoculars set up across the tower, but with a view this clear, I had no issue with admiring the scene through my own eyes. I walked up to the nearest glass panel and took a glance down. This must be indeed the 88th floor, as people below looked like rice grains. That must be how we all looked through Axelia's eyes. Visitors snapped photos of Melbourne's skyscrapers as they strolled down the tower, while this one dude was taking selfies with the souvenir shop as a background. To each his own, I suppose. With so many people around, I had no idea which ones were the calligraphers from that forum. I might have to ask around, but first I stood by the glass panel and took a selfie for myself to keep. As I put the phone back into my pocket, a couple of girls came up to me. They both carried leather handbags and I bet were designer brands. These ladies had so much makeup that they looked like they had been hit in the face. Kind of defeated their purpose if you ask me. "Hey there," one of them said. Ugh, cigarette breath. "You're a calligrapher as well?" Ooh, look at her nails, disgusting. My cheeks reddened as I nodded.
"You know, it's just a hobby."
I always blurted out those same words whenever people brought up the topic. When would I find the courage to confess this meant everything to me? One of the girls looked around. "No signs of Axelia, just like I expected. We wasted our time trying to invite her." The other lady shrugged. "She never even responds to emails. What makes you think the queen of calligraphy would show up in person just to meet ants like us?" I could almost smell the hate seeping out of these two. It reeked like a skip on garbage collection day. The girls continued to rant on about Axelia. "She went to one of the cons near my place and charged $100 per autograph. That much money for a scribble? She for real?" One time I asked her for a photo and she refused. Who does she think she is, anyway? Axelia had rejected my request for a picture too. Surely this must be a reason we had failed to consider contracts, dealing with agents, and all that other superstar stuff. The attacks continued, making me wonder why these girls even bothered flying to Melbourne in the first place. Might as well stay home if they really hated their idol that much. "Axelia has rich parents, plus all of her siblings are successful as well. No wonder why she has so much money to throw around." "Yeah, that's all it comes down to. We're the ones that save from us just to fly here." Both of the girls turned to face me. Their stares pressured me into pinning my hands against the glass. One of the ladies said, "You're here to see Axelia as well, I'm guessing. Are you a local?" I received a
I received a grant to fly over,
I mumbled. The girls furrowed their brows as if I told them I had drowned a baby along with 3 kittens. Government money, right? With that, the girls scattered off, probably searching for more like-minded folks to exchange complaints with. I gritted my teeth to hold back some choice words as I had prepared for these fine ladies. Maybe they misheard me, but I got here through a grant, not by robbing a blind man's house. So much for these people being my comrades. After taking a few more photos around this tower, I returned into the elevator alone. With colleagues like those, I would better go solo anyway. The doors closed, as the elevator descended, that male voice came through the speakers once more. Hope you enjoyed the view. The view from Skydeck is constantly changing. Brilliant sunshine, rolling clouds, pristine sunsets, and dazzling city lights. I wanted to believe those bad apples would never reach the top, but that sounded like some sort of fable parents told their kids. Maybe it was all about money, like those girls said. So many calligraphers showed up on the Skydeck today. I gazed down at my hands and wondered if they could really produce work that stood out among such a crowd. You're nearly back down to earth, so farewell. Enjoy Melbourne. It's the most livable city in the world. The elevator doors opened and I made my way out of the Eureka Skydeck. As I passed that duo standing behind the counter, they bid me farewell in unison. The sky faded into orange as the sun began its descent. Though I never claimed to be a saint, surely I deserved success more than these 2 girls in the tower. Tomorrow was the big event. I must observe Axelia's every twitch like a scientist started at her lab rat. If I mastered her every move, I might be able to gain an edge. Time to head for the hotel and get some sleep. I pulled out my paper map and traced a finger through the route I needed to take. You'd think I had already jotted my hotel's position onto the page. Judging from the map I had found online, I expected about a half-hour walk. A bit longer than I would like, but I figured I could admire more of Melbourne's sights along the way. Let's get going. The trams and taxis, now with their headlights on, continued to draw my gaze. Restaurants and retail chains also caught my attention with their neon signs. As one of the trams rounded the corner, the cable above sparkled like a camera flash. Those lights inside the carriages fizzled out for a second too. If I were inside that tram, I might have freaked out, but nobody inside or outside showed any reaction, so I guess this must be a common occurrence. Boy, the wind seemed to have really picked up. I should have brought a jumper along for this trip. Hopefully I would reach my hotel before it got too cold. I pulled out my phone to check the time. The clock had just hit 5:30 p.m. That meant I should arrive at the hotel by around 6. The perfect time for dinner before hitting the sack. 5:45 p.m., 6 p.m., 6:30 p.m. Okay, so maybe I should have given that online map a closer look. On screen, the hotel really looked like it was within walking distance. I checked my paper map to see how much farther I had to go. At this pace, it might be 8 by the time I arrived at my hotel. I sensed an urge to tear this pathetic map into bits, but I resisted because we all knew who the real failure was. Now that I had wandered away from the city, I hardly bumped into anyone walking along these streets. Even the road had next to no traffic to speak of. I kept glancing behind me to see if a taxi might drive by. Of course, they would all disappear now that I really needed them. Traveling in a new country had thrilled me so much during the day, but under this dark sky, I realized how scary foreign places could be. Those deserted construction zones I passed hardly helped. The birds that sang throughout the day had all gone to sleep as well. A tram drove by once in a while, but I had no idea if any of them passed my destination. I should have researched properly instead of just giving that online map a passing glance. A steep bridge ahead paved way into an area shrouded in shadows. The path before me looked more like a forest than a residential. In fact, there might be no footpath for me to walk on at all. Even if there was, my shoes already felt like they had needles poking into them. I never bothered to see what the hotel's check-in hours were. If I arrived too late and the staff had gone to bed, I might have to spend the night outside in this cold. Speaking of temperature, without a jumper to wear, I might freeze at this rate. I sniffed over and over to try and keep my runny nose in check. Now that I thought about it, perhaps this map was wrong, and I had been heading in the opposite direction this whole time. The possibility made my eyes water up. When would I ever do something right for a change? With a shaky hand, I pulled out my phone and made a call to a hire cab. At least I still had internet here, so I was able to look up the number. Knowing my luck, this phone could well have exploded right when I needed it most. With a life like mine, they would hardly be newsworthy. As I hung up, I figured I could have done a search on the tram routes instead. That probably would have been a cheaper alternative. Oh well, at this point, I just wanted to flop onto bed as soon as possible. A taxi drove in my direction and slowed down as it approached me. That must be the cab I had hired. I waved my hand and the taxi pulled over by the bridge for me to climb in. After closing the door, I told the driver the address of my hotel. He nodded and drove his cab across the bridge. At least that proved I had been walking in the right direction this whole time. The street ahead did in fact resemble a forest, but a few meters later, then we were back in another residential area. Jeez, I could have dashed across this bridge and everything would be fine. The darkness just made everything seem so much creepier. After 3 or so minutes, the taxi pulled up outside my hotel. If I had known it was this close, I would have just crawled my way here. I paid the driver and got out of his taxi. Right after I closed the door, the cab performed a U-turn and almost crashed into a honking tram as it sped back toward the city. The hotel's automatic doors opened when I approached them. I stepped through inside in relief when I noticed the staff standing behind the counter to my left. The ceiling lights shaded the lobby yellow, giving the place a royal feel. That man behind the counter wore a black suit, which certainly suited the atmosphere. Yes. Good evening, the man said when I walked up to the counter. Looks like you've had a long day.
I kinda walked all the way here from the city.
I said, well, that might be a lie since I caught a taxi for the last stretch, but close enough. The staff raised his brows, looking unsure whether to find me impressive or foolish. Lesson learned, sir. I definitely planned to catch a tram back into the city tomorrow. Have you got a rum booked? The man asked. I nodded.
My name is Vinty.
After checking his computer, the staff handed me an envelope with a passcard tucked inside. Sitting below this card was a piece of paper with the number 106 printed on it. That's on the floors floor. The man smiled. Would you like to use our Wi-Fi as well? I recalled asking Excelia to promote my work on social media, so tonight might be a good time to check if she had carried out my request. I nodded, and the staff issued me another slip with the Wi-Fi password written on it. After thanking the man, I strolled through another pair of automatic doors and I found my way into the elevator hall. A fancy-looking vase sat on top of a wooden table in the corner. One of the elevators had an out-of-order notice tag on its door. It was the only thing that reminded me of my apartment back home. On the other hand, I bet Excelia's house put even this hotel to shame. She probably lived alone and still had like 50 elevators. The elevator farthest from me still worked, so I walked in and let it send me up to the first floor. I might collapse without a proper meal tonight, but that track from earlier had made me sweat quite a bit. Let me get into my room and take a shower first. Once the elevator doors opened, I stepped down and located room 106 to my right. I walked up to the door and found a scanner on the adjacent wall. This must be the place where that card came in handy. Hey, I was new to this, so be nice. I had a rusty key for my wooden door back home. The numbers 106 glowed in blue above the scanner. Never in my life had I stayed in a place this grand. Relax, Vinty, this must be pretty standard in a lot of hotels. I tapped my card against the scanner. A green dot lit up on the panel, and the door made a clicking sound. I twisted the doorknob and as expected, felt no resistance when I pushed. See, I had this technology thing all figured out. I opened the door and stepped into the dark room. Good thing I found some light switches on the wall to my right. After dumping my backpack onto the carpet, I flipped all the light switches on. Let there be light, I thought, but not a single bulb lit up. I flipped the switches back and forth, but the room remained dim. Come on, I marathoned my way here, now this? Like I said, I had technology figured out, and I knew a set of broken switches when I saw one. Shaking my head, I marched back onto ground floor and confronted the staff in the lobby.
None of the lights work,
I said, pressing both hands against my hips. The man's smile never waned, making me sense a tinge of guilt. You must insert your card to activate the lights. There's a slot next to the switches. Would you like me to accompany you? The staff asked.
Oh, I see.
My ears heated up from the embarrassment.
It's okay, thank you.
Like I said, I use a rusty key for my wooden door back home, never been much of a techie. I returned into room 106, and indeed there was a panel sitting next to the light switches. If I had paid more attention, I could have spared myself from this disgrace. Anyway, I slotted my card into the panel before flipping the switches again. This time, all the lights in my room flickered to life. The bed here doubled the size of my one at home. Oh boy, I foresaw a fine evening of rest tonight. In fact, everything here was twice the size of what I had back home. The bathroom, shower, and even the fridge. Wait, I sold my fridge last month to pay the rent. Never mind. It felt nice to stay in a room without any wall cracks for a change. The wall to my left even had an art piece hanging on it. Some painting of a boat, it looked like. A pile of magazines sat on a coffee table in the corner. Beside that was a sofa worthy of being featured in a furniture store brochure. Next, I opened the fridge to see what was inside. Coke, beer, chips, and biscuits. I doubted I could afford even the snacks, let alone the alcohol. The cost could really add up if I started pulling these things out, so I refrained and closed the door. At least the toilet here was no bigger than the one I had back home. Its seat, however, looked so polished I could probably use it as a mirror. I pressed the flush button and the water swirled so loudly it made me jump. My flush at home only seemed to work on Tuesdays. Oh, and every second Thursday, so it could be worse. I knew nothing about shampoo or soap brands, but the ones they left in this shower might be worth more than my apartment. The logos on the packaging glittered in gold, making me feel scared to even open them. Everything inside this bathroom should be free though, so I might as well. Actually, that shampoo and soap brands were these anyway. What shampoo and soap brands were these anyway? Let me see. Alright, I should have recognized the logo from all the ads. It must be tough for those girls from before to hate Excelia, because there was no escaping her regardless of where you fled. As I left the bathroom, I noticed a pair of buttons positioned on the wall next to the main door. One was labeled, "Please clean my room," while the other read, "Do not disturb." I pressed the "Do not disturb" button, and the text lit up in response. Now I should be able to wash myself in peace. Despite being alone, I still closed the bathroom door before starting my shower. This shampoo here made me smell as nice as Excelia. It made sense, being her brand and all. I should have known it was about the products. None of us came out as babies smelling like flowers. The soap here felt so smooth, too. Those ones I used back home were so rough I might as well be rubbing my arms against concrete. The shower here felt so powerful. I thought I was standing under a waterfall. Eventually, I had to crank the power down just a bit. My apartment's shower possessed the strength of a leaking tap. I could stay in the shower all night long, but my tummy growled at me to go get dinner, so I switched off the tap, dried myself off with a towel, and slipped on with a new set of clothes. Oh, was someone expecting a shower shot? Sorry to disappoint. I wiped off the steam from my bathroom mirror and smiled at the reflection. Those famous brands had always made me scoff, but I admitted they did lift my confidence. My hair smelled so nice right now, too. If I cosplayed as Excelia and took a stroll outside, I could probably trick people into thinking I was a real deal. I wished my cheeks could look this shiny every day, too. Note to self to take another shower before heading out tomorrow. After putting my shoes on, I left the hotel to see where I could go for dinner. A tram rounded the corner and blinded me with its headlights as I stepped out. I crossed the road and exchanged good evenings with a lady walking her dog. The people here sure seemed friendly. Once we passed each other, I strolled on alone through the empty street. Let's see, I passed a church, a school, and a video rental. None of them had any food to offer, obviously. 10 minutes later, I finally reached the chain of restaurants, but most of them had already shut their lights. Oh, this noodle shop still had people inside. It would have to do. The wind chimes jingled as I pulled the door open and walked in. The lady behind the counter wore an apron over her pajamas, making me feel like I was visiting a friend's house. Finally, a person dressed in something other than a suit. She beamed at me and I returned the gesture. In the corner sat a wooden chair with a missing leg. The staff had glued a piece of paper that read, "Please do not sit," onto the backrest. Thanks for the warning, but I doubt anyone would try anyway. A dozen customers managed to cram inside this tiny restaurant. Their body heat warmed up the room, and compared to the outside cold, I welcomed it. Some of these diners were chatting a bit too loudly, but at least the place felt alive. I crowd walked past the customers before taking a seat next to the counter. Once I settled in, the cashier lady handed me a menu. I shooed off a buzzing fly before opening the booklet. Well, I said booklet, but it was in fact just a sheet of paper. Arial 12 pixels with a white background, classic. The page's corner had been torn off just as someone just taped the thing back together. At least the recipes listed here actually made sense to me. A menu's design should have no relation to the food quality anyway. I appreciated Excelia treating me to the first class meal, but my heart felt more at ease in a place like this. The lady came back a minute later, and I ordered a bowl of beef noodles. As she took the menu from me, she said, "You new face, did you move in recently?" The lady used a booming voice that allowed me to speak over the restaurant noise, but her smile told me she just wanted to strike up a conversation, so I let my shoulder relax as well.
I'm here on holidays,
I said.
My name's Vinti, by the way.
Oh, the lady clasped her hands together. Staying in that hotel up the road, I'm guessing. Welcome to Melbourne. How are you finding it here?
Yeah, pretty cool. I got to visit the sky deck today, so that was neat.
The Utopia Tower or something, right?
Eureka, actually.
Haha, I've never been. The lady scratched the back of her head. It's always the locals who take these places for granted. You know how it is.
Oi.
No. Oi, get back to work. A man's voice shouted from the kitchen. He must be the chef and perhaps this lady's husband as well. Whoops. Shit. The lady winked at me before running into the kitchen. I would never catch a flight attendant swear like this, yet sometimes when people chose to act like all formal, I might as well be talking to robots. This restaurant let me lose my breath and undo my collar button, as in, if I had one. The lady came out carrying my beef noodles. After placing the bowl onto my table, she jogged back behind the counter, most likely to avoid getting told off again. I scooped up some soup with my spoon and took a sip. The heat burned my tongue a little, but the soup tasted so good I hardly cared. In my hungry state, I took only 5 minutes to empty the bowl. These noodles filled me up more than that first class meal I had with Excelia, and it cost less than half the price. I wondered if reaching the top meant I must abandon these simple pleasures, a sacrifice I felt ready to make, but it will still bum me out. As I walked up to the counter and paid the lady, she patted me on the shoulder. Come by again sometime, okay? I had enough trouble paying my rent, so I might never have a chance to visit Melbourne again. Still, I gave her a nod before leaving the restaurant. Now that I no longer had to worry about getting lost, I let the evening breeze caress my hair. Having spent most of the day in starvation, it sure felt nice to be full for a change. After crossing the road, I returned into my hotel and exchanged nods with that guy at the lobby as I strode by. A clock on the wall behind the staff read 10 p.m. Maybe this place had 24-hour check-in, which would mean I had sweated a bucket over nothing. I let out a yawn as I rode the elevator back up to floor 1. For your information, I happen to be an early sleeper. After returning into my room, I changed into my pajamas. The light fabric of these short sleeves provided me with comfort of being at home. I flopped onto the queen-sized bed and rolled around, causing my blanket to sleep on the floor in protest. Just for one night, I could experience how royalty slept. I just hoped this room had no security cameras because I was acting like a 5-year-old right now. Rain began to pound against the glass doors that led to my balcony. Only a drizzle at first, but the droplets then smashed down with full force as if begging to be let in. With the sky already dark, I had no way of knowing about this rain. Warm during the day, then freezing cold, and now this. The weather here reminded me of a moody child. Thank God I had already made it inside. If this rain fell when I was lost out there, I probably would have shed tears. My luck must be turning around. Wait, I still needed to hop on social media and see if Excelia had promoted my works as promised. I scrambled out of bed and grabbed my phone, which I had left inside my clothes on the carpet. After connecting to the hotel's Wi-Fi, I jumped onto the calligraphy subreddit. There it was, right on top of the page. A thread titled, "Fellow calligrapher asked me to share this," posted by Excelia. Let's see, 27 comments. That was more than all the threads I had ever created combined. Exelia's words should draw a lot of attention. 0 votes, but oh well. With my trembling pinky, I tapped on the thread to read the comments. Wait, where is it? Latest comment. Wow, this calligrapher begged Excelia for a plug. Shameless much? Geez, I would downvote this twice if I could. What's with that photo? It's so blurry. Oh well, the real thing probably looks even worse. This person has some real guts wasting Excelia's time with this trash. Well, people always said there was no such thing as bad publicity, right? Probably, maybe, hopefully. Did Excelia really have to mention that I had asked her to promote her? If I had known her choice of words would suck this much, I never would have bothered making the request. I took all I had to refrain from hurling my phone at the mirror. Instead, I slammed the phone onto a table by the bed. My anger boiled the room, making it feel like it inside of a microwave. I flipped off all the switches with so much force that I almost chipped my nail. The room turned black, making me feel like I had fallen into a bottomless pit. After letting out a heavy breath, I clawed onto bed and tossed a blanket over me. My mood might be to blame, but this blanket felt like sandpaper scraping against my arms. With my pulse still pumping from anger, I shut my eyes and tried to get some sleep. Shameless. Downvote. Worst. I twirled around the bed in hopes of finding a pose that would help me fall asleep. In fact, I almost rolled off the queen-sized bed at one point. Nothing I tried worked, as those spite-filled comments kept echoing in my head. Eventually, fatigue took over, and I managed to sneak in an hour or two of sleep. Okay, I'm gonna leave this here. I really miss the choices we can make. Oh my god, stop. I didn't ask for this. Anyway, I really miss the choices, like you can get bad endings and stuff. I thought it was really cool. I would like that to come back, but oh well. Anyways, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. It will be without Within again. But anyway, bye bye.